Kicking off the list at number 10, doorbell lawn camera. We'll start with a recent doorbell cam recording, okay? Those are always terrifying. Every time I see one of these, first of all, I think of the Paranormal Activity franchise. I get so creeped out just looking at them. This video was submitted by Robert Parks. Now it shows the lawn, his front lawn, around 4 a.m. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a naked man appears. That's always fun. Yeah, he was trying to cover up his, goods, or not goods rather, but given the fact that he was still, naked, it was pretty horrifying after the fact. You can't hear it because we had to mute the audio, obviously, but he's yelling about snakes being all over him. Yeah, luckily police arrived and gave the man the help he needed, but imagine somebody going through a rough time. Like, I feel bad, but you also have to stay safe at the same time. You can't have a naked dude running inside your home talking about snakes on a plane or whatever.
Moving on at number 9, we have Ricky McCormick. On June 30th, 1999, the body of Ricky McCormick was found in a cornfield in West Alton, Missouri. In his pocket were 2 pages of handwritten notes. The notes were written in a complex cipher. They consisted of a number of random letters and numbers. The FBI believes that, and I quote, breaking this code could reveal the victim's whereabouts before his death and could lead to the solution of a homicide. However, so far it's been impossible to crack. The FBI does believe that Ricky was murdered, and we still don't know why or by who. In our 8th spot, we have Jerome EZELL. On November 7th, 2017, Jerome EZELL was reported missing in Lansing, Michigan. Later, police found his car, but there were no signs of Jerome. That was until over a month later. On December 12th, 2018, Jerome was found dead in a wooden area. Foul play is suspected. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. The FBI is offering up to $10,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the individual or individuals responsible for the murder of Jerome. In our 7th spot, we have Operation Ghost Stories. Around the early 2000s, the FBI learned that there were multiple sets of Russian spies in the US posing as everyday Americans. That's when Operation Ghost Stories came into play, and this was one of the largest counterintelligence investigations in history. In the end, it led to the arrest of 10 agents by 2010, and this was not an easy thing to do. Nonetheless, learning about potential spies is one thing that the FBI fears. Coming in at number 6, we have the Zodiac Killer. Just last year, it was announced that the infamous serial killer known as the Zodiac Killer was identified. However, the supposed killer, a man named Gary Francis Port, died in 2018. But the FBI clearly knows something that we don't know, because shortly after, they shut down the claim that Gary was the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is believed to be responsible for at least 5 murders in Northern California from 1968 to 1969. But the killer would write notes and taunt the police and claim to have killed as many as 37 people. This has been a cold case forever. The FBI says that the case is still open and shut down any claims that the killer was identified. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with CLIVEN BUNDY. This was a huge scandal for the FBI, as they were found to be withholding and destroying key evidence in this case. So basically, in 2014, Bundy and his sons and supporters were involved in an armed standoff with the Bureau of Land Management due to unpaid cattle grazing fees and restrictions. In January of 2018, a federal judge threw out all the criminal charges against Bundy. A part of this was due to the fact that the FBI misplaced or hid a thumb drive with key evidence to this case. It's very messy, and the FBI got in huge trouble for it. In our 4th spot today, we have the Russians. During Trump's presidency, the FBI actually opened a case to look into whether Trump was actually working alongside the Russians or not. And if he wasn't, they knew he was badly compromised. They said that he was compromised for, and I quote, his questionable business dealings, the hush money paid on his behalf to silence women, shady transactions at his charity, and most importantly, his lies about his Russian dealings, including his secret 2015 effort to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, even as he told the world that he had no business with Russia. So Trump's secret ties with Russia and Putin certainly had the FBI concerned. In our 3rd spot today, we have Pizzagate. In March 2016, the personal Gmail account of a former White House chief of staff and chair of Hillary Clinton's 2016 US presidential campaign was hacked, and his emails revealed some pretty disturbing things. They believe that Hillary and other people of power are part of a trafficking ring. In the emails, they use code words like pizza, cheese pizza, and hot dogs. Seems weird. Like, the emails say things like, and I quote, "I'm dreaming about your hot dog stand in Hawaii." Clearly, there's a hidden message there. Another email said Obama spent $65K on pizza and hot dogs. Again, probably another coded message. Whatever was going on, the FBI was concerned, and they were on the case trying to decipher the emails and get down to the bottom of what was really going on. Coming in at number 2, we have Alcatraz. In June of 1962, 3 inmates, John Anglin, his brother Clarence, and Frank Morris, escaped Alcatraz Supermax prison. They put dummy heads that they had made of plaster and flesh-tone paint in their beds to fool the night guards. They then crawled through ventilation ducts between their sinks that they had been widening for quite some time and got out into an unmonitored corridor and then hopped over the cell wall. They then used a raft that they made using over 50 raincoats, among other stolen and donated materials, and they set off into the waters. The prisoners were never caught. For 17 years, the FBI worked on this case, trying to figure out if the escapees survived or if they were on the run. They officially closed the case on December 31st, 1979. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Alonzo Brooks. On April 3rd, 2004, Alonzo Brooks disappeared after attending a house party with his friends. He was supposed to get a ride home with his friends, but one of the friends got lost on the trip to buy cigarettes and never returned back to give Brooks a ride back home. That evening, he never returned home. The following day, his boots and hat were found across the street from the home where the party took place. The local sheriff's department and Kansas State investigators searched the area in the following days, but found nothing. That was until May 1st. Alonzo's family decided to take matters into their own hands and to search the area themselves. And that's when they found Alonzo's body. Rumor has it that his body was being preserved in a freezer while police were out searching for him and then later dumped there. Several years later, the FBI announced that they were reinvestigating the case, and a new autopsy concluded that Alonzo's cause of death was homicide. So now the hunt is on to find Alonzo's killer or killers. Someone knows who did it and they're not speaking up. Starting off this countdown, we have Walt Disney. Turns out that Walt Disney was a secret FBI informant. Who would have guessed? Not me. I hope his codename was like Mickey Mouse or something. Anyways, from 1940 until his death in 1966, Walt Disney was a secret informer for the LA office of the FBI. He was to report to the office any un-American activities. And according to a number of leaked reports, Disney gave up the names of several Hollywood celebs who he thought were suspicious. And by suspicious, I mean he suspected them of being communists. And apparently his service really helped the FBI because in 1954 he was named full special agent in charge contact. I mean, that's pretty cool. This dude practically was living a double life. On one side, he was a cheery owner of an amusement park, and on the other side, he was a top secret FBI informant.
Number 9. Bigfoot caught on tape. This video is said to have caught the Russian Bigfoot himself. Also, Russian Bigfoot, another Bigfoot, are there many Bigfoots? We'll talk later. The exact location of where this video was taken is still unknown. In fact, there isn't a ton known about this video at all, hence why it's on our list today. But what we do know is that it was taken somewhere in Russia and that people believe it captures the real Bigfoot. It's a short clip that captures him, so I'm just gonna show you guys and then you can decide for yourselves. Comment down below. I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence personally. If Bigfoot was real, it's time we pay up. I mean, come on. This man's image has been used in the media for years. How is he paying his bills? Also, is there one Bigfoot or multiple? Is there a Russian Bigfoot? Is there a Canadian Bigfoot? Is Chris the Canadian Bigfoot? I don't know. Maybe. He wears a lot of plaid, who knows? Number 8, Matt doesn't live here. Okay, this one I need your help on. There's a backstory that I need to figure out right now. Back in 2016, in the middle of an August summer night, this man approaches. Again, topless, always a great sign, just naked dudes approaching homes all of a sudden. And he's slowly approaching and he's looking back at somebody off camera. He has a look like he's about to rob the place almost. It's kinda, he's doing this. He's kind of tiptoeing in and out, it's not looking good. But instead of knocking and running like we all did when we were 15 years old, he pretends to knock. He knocks the air and then pretends to ask somebody who's not there if Matt is home. I don't know if he did this so the other person could see, maybe it was like a prank or a dare, or maybe it was an attempt to break in and we just didn't really connect all the dots, or he didn't follow through with the plan, or he chickened out, I don't know. Either way, I'm glad nothing really bad happened. So creepy, either way. Number 7, MILGRAM experiment footage. This video comes to us from the 1960s, and it's apparently from the experiment known as the MILGRAM experiment. Basically, the premise was that they got two groups of people, okay? One called the teachers and one called the learners, and they paired them up, one from each group. So far, so good? Awesome. The pair couldn't see each other, but the teacher would ask the learner a question. The teacher was then told to give them an electrical shock. Yeah, every question made the shocks get worse and worse until an eventual fatal shock would be administered.
It'll be 195 volts. The correct one.
Let me out of here.
Slow.
Let me
Dance.
out of here. My heart's bothering me.
Now, before the experiment, it was proposed that only 3% of the participants would go all the way and would actually give the fatal shock. But it turned out that under pressure, 65% of the teachers actually gave the lethal dose of electricity to their learner counterparts. Now, luckily the students were actually just actors, so nobody was truly getting hurt here, hence the experiment. But it is honestly very creepy to see on footage. We always heard about this, but seeing it happen, it does something in here that I don't really like. Number 6, TV head. Stepping away from the worst of the worst or the weird, whatever's going on in that last video, let's shine the spotlight on some, I guess, creative happenings, dare I say? Like for example, the guy wearing a TV on his head. Apparently, that's a thing now. Awesome. In Toronto, we have a guy that walks backwards around the city. And then here in Virginia, they have a guy who wears a TV on their head. So back in 2019, this man would appear all over in Virginia. He visited more than 50 residents in his time, and he would show up with a TV as a head, and then if that wasn't already creepy enough, he would leave an old TV on your doorstep in the middle of the night and then just leave. That's so annoying to move. Also, it is pretty creepy. Many believe this man was inspired by the comic book series Saga. There's a race of TV alien heads. This could be a fan of, Prince Robot IV. Either way, this is annoying. You're walking on our property, you're leaving TVs. I wouldn't lift this up. Are you kidding? My brittle back? I couldn't lift a TV. I can't even lift a laptop now. Get out of here. Number 5, Salem Road. This video shows a couple guys driving in a truck down a road in what looks to be like a very rural area. It's not too bright or fun. Now they're just two guys being dudes hanging out, blasting some Coldplay, whatever you do with your dudes on the weekends. Now you know a little bit more about me. All of a sudden they come across a woman dressed in white walking down the middle of the road. So they turn down their Coldplay, probably, and they swear a bunch. Obviously they're in shock. Just a woman walking down in the middle of the road in what appears to be the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden these men driving up behind her. It looks bad from both point of views, know what I mean? They stop the truck and one of them gets out to go check on her to see if she's okay, because she's walking kind of, ghoulish. She's got like the ghoulish walk. Now the guy continues freaking out. He's telling them to get out of there, and the other guys don't believe him until they realize that seemingly out of nowhere this lady is now right in front of their truck. Awesome, we love phantoms. The video ends with this clip. I'm not sure who or what this lady was or what's going on here, but that's all I gotta say. One of these. Number 4, overnight break-in. This next found footage comes from a doorbell camera, one of my favorites, and it shows the terrifying moment a stranger begins trying to break into a woman's home. This is my worst fear, if I'm being honest here. She starts off by backing up and throwing her body into the window until it finally breaks. Now the stranger wasn't in any immediate danger or anything like that, but it does appear as though she may be a little bit confused about her whereabouts, which is obviously sad when you look at it. The woman whose home is obviously freaked out. More than fair. I mean, imagine this happening out of the blue, middle of Survivor finale. You're like, what's that sound? What is that? Yeah, that ought to be jarring. Eventually, a police officer showed up and spoke to the woman who claimed that her friend was in the house. Now, obviously, this was not the case, but this is why I believe she may have been a little confused as to where she was. In the end, it just so happens that alcohol had a little something to do with it, so everyone was okay. It was just a rough night. You know what I mean? Number 3. Chernobyl footage. Okay, this one comes to us from the later 1980s when there was a nuclear disaster in Chernobyl, obviously. I don't have to go into detail about this one. In April of 1986, there was an explosion and a fire taking place at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. This explosion happened when there was an issue and they were trying to begin an experiment which was set to actually make the reactor more safe, but in turn it didn't work out. Unfortunately, the way the reactor was designed placed too much responsibility in the hands of an operator. One thing led to another, and it was this huge, tragic disaster. The amount of radiation in the air caused alarms at the Forsmark nuclear power plant in Sweden. Footage I'm about to show you is just a small glimpse into what things looked like soon after this took place. I can't imagine how scary this must have been for everybody involved. Even watching it is disturbing, to be honest with you. Chernobyl today is still pretty much a ghost town, but there are people who live there. Some of them never even left in the first place. Number 2, doorbell liquor. And immediately back into the weird stuff. This was one of my favorites, I have to include it. This was short and sweet, not much explaining to do here. Just a dude going up on a doorbell. Back in 2019, a man was caught on surveillance approaching a home in a neighborhood in Salinas, California. He doesn't say much, he just shows up and, well, like I said, starts licking the doorbell. Just goes to town on this button. Not the camera, the actual button, the actual doorbell itself. He rang the bell apparently hundreds of times. He did this for hours straight. Now the homeowner said in a following interview after seeing the footage, "Oh boy, that is weird." Yeah, see me, I would laugh hysterically, and then after I'd be like, okay, we have to move. Number 1, overnight visitor. This video was taken from a surveillance camera that was placed inside of a couple's home. Yeah, inside, not outside, in. Having a camera inside of your home isn't too common, but sometimes you're lucky you have one. Like this example. These people had one because what it caught while they were sleeping is one of the creepiest things I've ever seen in my life. When the couple woke up one day, they were unable to find a purse that they knew was in the house before they went to go to sleep, right? They're like, this pretty much is right there next to my chapstick. I know where my chapstick is. So they decided to check their handy security camera, and this is what they found. As it turns out, the couple fell asleep on the couch watching TV, and as they were sleeping there, a man crept in, and he was so quiet he didn't even wake them or their dog up. Yeah, he stood at the top of their stairs watching them sleep for a few minutes, which just adds another layer of, I'm gonna shit my pants, and then that's it, Bob's your uncle. I wouldn't even keep this tape, I would throw it out. This is cursed in itself. I'm glad the robber only took the purse and didn't do anything else. How scary is that?
Starting off this countdown, we have the double agent. One of the FBI's biggest concerns is having a double agent a part of their team, and this happened to them multiple times. One time was in 1962. So a KGB agent known as Alexei Kulak walked into the FBI office. Now this was a bold move for him because just 3 blocks away was the Soviet UN mission. An FBI agent asked him if he was worried that they were watching the FBI building, and he replied with, "No, all of your people are out covering a meeting with your guy Dick." And that one sentence started a lengthy investigation. Who was Dick? Clearly, they thought he was a double agent. They spent decades trying to find this spy on their staff. At first, they interviewed anyone named Dick or Richard, while trying to keep everything hush-hush so that the mole wouldn't find out. They went through thousands of agents and spent countless hours trying to find this man. To this day, the FBI is maintaining its silence on this. Moving on at number 9, we have Dorothy's lost ruby slippers. Apparently, the FBI are huge fans of The Wizard of Oz. Why? Well, they spent 10 years looking for Judy Garland's lost ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz. In 2005, they were stolen from the Judy Garland Museum in Minnesota. And instead of having local police investigate, they had the FBI doing the investigation. Like, damn, how serious are those shoes? FBI's Minneapolis field office said, and I quote, "Our top priority was the safe recovery of the slippers." Dude, top priority? Some murder cases aren't even given top priority. That's the tape. But in case you guys were worried, they did manage to locate the shoes. But like I said, it took 10 years of their efforts for this. In our 8th spot, we have the Bigfoot in Oregon. In 1976, the FBI officially investigated the Bigfoot in Oregon. It all started when they came across a tuft of hair snagged on the bark of a tree. People were like, oh my god, it has to be Bigfoot hair. Plus, that site was notorious for Bigfoot sightings. So the FBI collected the hair sample and ran DNA tests on it. 42 years later, the FBI concluded that the sample was from a deer. Why did it take 42 years until the FBI made this news public? A lot of people think that they know more than they're letting on to. In our 7th spot, we have ESP. Here's another good example of FBI wasting time and money on a secret project. This project was called Project Stargate. And basically, they wanted to see if ESP could be used as part of international spying. They spent more than 3 years researching into this, until they finally concluded that it wasn't possible. On top of that, between 1972 to 1995, the Pentagon spent $20 million using psychics to try and spy on their enemies and see what they were up to. So they enlisted the help of men and women who claimed to have ESP powers. They would then help them find hostages images or would trace the path of criminals on the run. They thought that they were onto something here until they realized that there was no scientific proof behind ESP, and in the end they wasted millions of dollars. In our sixth spot, we have the DNA. Have you ever got your DNA analyzed, maybe to find out more about your family tree or family history or for genetic analysis? Well, if you have, then there is a possibility that the FBI now has records of your DNA. Basically, they are collecting this DNA history to create a DNA profile for you. This is actually the way that the FBI solved the case of the Golden State Killer. So if there ever is an unsolved case and they recover DNA from the crime scene, then they can upload this to their handy dandy site and see if it matches any of the people who have gotten their DNA analyzed in the past. It's pretty crazy. We are now at our fifth and halfway mark with your fingerprints. Even if you've never been arrested before, the FBI still might have your fingerprints on file. Now, it's not what you think. They're not going around waiting for you to toss out a coffee cup so that they can then retrieve it from the trash and dust for fingerprints. No, let me explain. So, if you've ever had your fingerprints taken as part as a background check, the FBI now has them in their integrated automated fingerprint identification system. This could include getting fingerprints taken for your driver's license, for a job background check, or if you bought a gun. This database has more than 100 million fingerprints on file. What's crazy is that even with that many fingerprints on file, the FBI can find a match within 12 minutes. In our fourth spot, we have Project Greek Island. Project Greek Island is the name given to a secret bunker built under the Greenbrier Hotel in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. This might look like a normal luxury resort on the outside, but there's a full-on bunker under there. It was built in 1961 and it's over 112,000 square feet. It contains enough rooms to accommodate just over 1,000 people. It was built as a shelter for members of Congress in case of a nuclear bomb. In 1992, a Washington reporter somehow found out about this secret shelter and exposed it to the world. Shortly after, the bunker was decommissioned. They really did not want people knowing about it. So that just means that they packed up and built a new bunker somewhere else. I wonder where. In our third spot, we have the Vault. The Vault is the FBI's library containing nearly 7,000 documents on people or cases. This media has been scanned and then uploaded online. The wildest part is everyone has access to this due to the Freedom of Information Act. So if you want to read up on a potential case file that they have against you, you can. Some of the most famous case files in the vault include Marilyn Monroe, Steve Jobs, John Lennon, and Elvis Presley. All of these celebrities have case files for a number of reasons, not just for criminal activity. For example, most of the celebrities in their files were there because they were suspected to be communists, including Marilyn Monroe. So if the FBI thinks you are a threat, then they'll create a file on you, which is absolutely insane. Honestly, after this video, I'll probably have a file on me, so fun. In our second spot, we have the STINGRAY interceptors. In late 2012, it was revealed that the FBI had a new secretive security device. It was known as STINGRAY. Basically, it was a fake cell phone tower planted all over the place that can lock onto all devices in that area. They then could find out a cell phone's location, intercept phone calls, and potentially texts as well, which a number of people called unconstitutional because it's literally invading your privacy. Well, the FBI has gone to great lengths to cover up the technology's capabilities. In fact, they refuse to tell judges all of its abilities. But don't worry, they are being forced to confess what they're up to. And in our number one spot today, we have the license plate readers. All across America, the FBI is installing automated license plate readers. Why are they doing this? Well, their aim is to create databases of location information, aka who was in what area at what time. So these scanners are mounted by the side of roads and it scans every car that passes by. It then collects all the data and stores it, which seems crazy. They literally will have records of everywhere you go. It's like they're tracking your every move. A report revealed that in Washington alone, nearly every block has more than 250 of these cameras. These cameras scan 1,800 images per minute. It seems intrusive, but it's the FBI's way of trying to solve crimes quicker, or keep an eye on its citizens.